Throughout these sections, you have acquired a series of knowledge and with it a series of skills, which is what we are going to be making explicit here. First of all, you learned that your psychic heart is different from your physical heart, and that psychic heart fulfills two main functions. The first is to bond emotionally with other people, and because of this, and as a second function, it pumps physical sensations which are transformed into emotions, thoughts, and actions. That is why it was so important to define the psychic heart, because another thing that you learned here is that if this heart becomes unbalanced, it begins to pump unpleasant sensations, which in turn transform into negative emotions, which cause toxic thoughts, and which could eventually lead to perform actions that could hurt you. Before this module, you were simply the object of everything that happened to you, but thanks to the fact that you begin to acquire a greater degree of consciousness, you will generate much more control over all these forces that previously affected you. Another thing you learned in this specific section is that what most causes a process of imbalance in your psychic heart is that when you suffer some type of trauma and you want to detach yourself from that person or situation that hurts you, your psychic heart maintains some type of emotional bond. No matter how small it might be, it leads you to suffer because, on the one hand, you want to break that bond, but on the other, you cannot due to the suction energy that continues to operate in your psyche so that the bond remains. The second thing you learned here is that once an imbalance occurs in your psychic heart, a series of aspects of your life are affected, such as your personal valuation, which leads you to develop some undervaluation complex, which, as a consequence of the above, alters your mood through a process of chronic sadness, which eventually leads to some type of depression. And in turn, and as the third phase of this process, you completely lost your personal motivation, which causes your life to stagnate and you lose the ability and confidence to achieve your life goals. On all these causes that at some point it is your body that begins to suffer just because your heart, being affected, has begun to generate those emotions that no longer only alter you internally but also lead you to suffer physical symptoms such as stomach pain, inability to breathe, among others. And the third thing you learned here was that there are a series of agents that make your heart sick. These agents are a relationship breakup that causes emotional trauma due to a bond that you are not prepared to get rid of, a disappointment that occurs when someone you have bonded with makes you feel less special than you are, indifference, which occurs when someone doesn't care about you but you continue to act as if everything is fine in your life, and the bad treatment, which arises because the person you are with takes out on you because of their own internal problems. Everything you have learned here is what will allow you to develop a series of skills that will help you arrive better prepared to the next level of this program. The first skill is related to managing the sensations that are activated in your psychic heart. You already know that the psychic heart is an energy system, which is responsible for generating and maintaining some type of emotional bond with some person or thing with which you feel particularly related. It does this through the drive of physical sensation, which lead you to perceive pleasure when you are in a state of balance. The problem arises when you face a traumatic experience which leads you to want to break that bond, something your heart is going to oppose. As you can notice, the moment you begin to become aware of these sensations, you take the first step to manage your entire psychic balance, with which you will even be able to strengthen the reaction that you experience in the face of the emotions that arise due to this imbalance, and with it, the thoughts and actions that could lead you to feel much more pain than what you would receive in case you learn to keep that energy system that I am talking about here in balance. The second skill that you will develop is that you could eventually control every aspect of your life as a whole. As you could see, when your psychic car is altered, your entire life comes to a standstill. This happens because the moment your heart generates those thoughts that make you feel that you are of little value to others, this causes you to no longer feel the motivation to move forward with your life goals. Since you already manage those sensations that are altered due to a sick psychic heart, it will be very difficult for you or easier to maintain the motivation that allows you to achieve everything in your life, even under circumstances that may be very adverse for you. People who achieve this reach the point where, even in the face of a relationship breakup or disappointment in love, they persist in achieving their desires. Therefore, everything you are learning here will help you not to lose focus on what you want, when you are not what another person wants for themselves. And on the other skill that you are going to acquire, thanks to everything we have worked on here, is that your own psychic immunity is going to be strengthened. You already know that there are a series of external agents that cause your heart to get sick. Since you already recognize them, you have developed the ability to distance yourself from them. And above all, even if you are exposed to them, you will have greater balance and power so that they affect more aspects of your entire psychic organ. If you look, here you have taken the first steps to gain control over everything that could affect you. Given this framework of reference, we are now in a position to move on to the next level, which is the one where you will learn to recognize the symptoms and diseases that occur when your heart becomes imbalanced.